Good morning. This is Reverend Christie Hardwick with Wisdom Wednesdays, and welcome to the Consciousness Cafe as part of SoulCall Ministries. This morning, I am so happy to be here with Kevin Jennings, who's a dear friend and colleague of many years. I think it's been a couple of decades now. And Kevin is an amazing human being who is with many titles, but among them, author and teacher and founder extraordinaire, and has had a career that has arched from teaching all the way through founding an organization, through being in the administration, and writing several books, all of which I have enjoyed, about his life, but also about one that's called One Teacher in 10, about being LGBTQ in the education system. So much we can talk about, but I'm going to start first with just saying hello to Kevin Jennings and welcome to Soul Call.
Good morning, Christy.
So good to see you. Love seeing your face. So the first thing I wanted to just check in with you about is this is about people's callings and what they get called to. And it looks like at first you were called to teaching, but that maybe started when you went to Harvard. Maybe that was the first call out of your family, is to go to college and go to Harvard. What was your first calling?
Well, it's very interesting. I've actually had 6 careers. And those careers were high school teacher, nonprofit executive, government official, foundation president, museum president, and currently I run the civil rights law firm, Lambda Legal, which is America's oldest and largest LGBT rights legal advocacy organization. And I don't think the job title of any of those were my calling.
Mhm.
My calling goes back to the mission of my life. And when young people ask me for advice about their careers, I always tell them, don't worry about your job title. Worry about what your mission is. And my mission was to try to make the world a better place. And that came from my upbringing. My father was a Southern Baptist evangelist. Now, as you might imagine, growing up gay in the Southern Baptist Church was not a picnic. In fact, it was profoundly damaging in many, many, many ways. But as I grew older, I was able to extract some good out of what, when I was young, was a pretty negative experience. And I had to memorize 25 Bible verses a night as a child. And that's come in
Wait,
handy
let me make sure I
in
got
my life
25 Bible verses a night.
as a child. So I know the Bible extremely well. But there are basically a few stories that stuck with me. I don't remember many of the verses anymore. And I'm going to paraphrase. There are 2 stories which have been the biggest influence on my life. And one is a story where Jesus is preaching and people ask him, who's going to go to heaven? And Jesus says, well, none of you are going. And the people say, why not? And Jesus says, well, I was in prison and you never visited me. I was homeless and you didn't give me a place to live. I was sick and you didn't care for me. I was hungry and you didn't feed me. And the people say, when did we do this to you, Jesus? And Jesus said, whenever you did this to the least of my brothers, you did this to me.
Mm-hmm.
And even though my family was incredibly poor growing up, I lived in a trailer park on an unpaved dirt road in an unincorporated town in rural North Carolina. My father died when I was 8. My mother had a 6th grade education. She worked in fast food restaurants. She cleaned people's houses. She did whatever she needed to do to put food on the table. We didn't have very much. She emphasized to me that there were always people who had less than we did, and that whatever you had, your job was to take care of the least of your brothers and sisters. So I was incredibly lucky. I got a scholarship. I went to Harvard. Doesn't everybody go from a trailer park to Harvard? I knew when I graduated, my mother pulled me aside and she whispered one of her favorite verses in my ear that day. And she said, Kevin, to whom much has been given, much will be expected. And so I never really had a career plan. Every single job I've had, I kind of fell into by accident. But I had a mission. I had a calling. And that calling was to try to help the least of my brothers and sisters.
That's beautiful. You fell into by accident, or we would say divine appointment, maybe, since you were very clear about what you wanted to be and do in the world. So these opportunities came, toward you, and you reached for them and said yes. You said yes often. You said yes to things you might not have thought would have been in your experience. I know that you mentor young people, and I know that you also run, big campaign, support for people, and you get involved in a lot more than even what's in any of the jobs that you've been called to. But I'm thinking about, particularly moving into the administration. That was something that you may not have imagined, happening before, but it was in alignment with what you wanted to be and do.
Yeah, in 2008, I was the LGBT chair for President Obama's campaign. And when the president was elected, I was asked to be Assistant Secretary of Education. And specifically, I was asked to lead a national campaign against bullying in schools. And frankly, I didn't think I would like Washington. I'm not a big bureaucracy kind of guy, and I didn't really think it was a fit for me. And quite honestly, it wasn't. I didn't love the bureaucracy. I didn't love the political games. On my first day in office, a right-wing group took out a full-page ad in the Washington Times attacking me. And Sean Hannity on Fox News went after me on his program repeatedly. And it was pretty ugly. But I knew I was there for a larger purpose, and that was to try to help kids who were getting bullied every day in their school because of who they were. And my partner called me at one point, and I was really down that day. And I said, "Do you think I should just quit?" And he said, "I'll be damned if you went down there to stop kids from being bullied, and we're going to let them bully you out of this job."
Beautiful.
So I stuck it out.
Hmm.
And we ended up having a White House summit on bullying prevention, which President Obama keynoted and Mrs. Obama attended. And we achieved double-digit percentage drops in the rate of bullying in American schools by the time we left office. So I never pictured myself as a bureaucrat in Washington, but I was called to that role, and we made a difference.
Beautiful. It's that following of the thread. So even if it didn't fit, even if you felt like, me, you want me to go do this? I'm not sure this is mine to do. But once you were there, you could see, and even in retrospect, you see even clearer how it tied to the preparation you already had by founding GLSEN, the Gay Lesbian Straight Education Network. And that came out of the teaching, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, everything, there's a great, it's kind of a cheesy movie called The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel,
Yeah.
but there's a great saying in it, which I use all the time. And I use this with young people who I mentor a lot. Everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end.
Yes.
And that has really been my experience in life. Everything will be okay in the end. And you referenced the fact that I do a lot outside of my job. I serve on a lot of nonprofit boards. I mentor a lot of young people. I help a lot of political candidates. And that's going to lead me to my second story from the Bible, which I referenced, which was a huge influence on me. And it's a story called The Widow's Mite. And it was my mother's absolute favorite story in the Bible, I think because she related to it so much. And in this story, a poor widow puts two mites, two coins, into the collection plate at the synagogue. And Jesus turns to the congregation and says, "This widow has made the greatest gift." And people are confused because she's only put in a very small amount of money and other people put in a much larger amount of money. And Jesus says, "But she gave all that she had."
Hmm.
And my mother never had very much, but she gave whatever she had. In fact, at the end of her life, she was a full-time volunteer in an AIDS hospice.
Oh.
And it was an AIDS hospice that served primarily gay Black men. And for a woman who grew up under segregation as a fundamentalist Christian, where she was taught that being gay was an evil sin, that's pretty remarkable. And she taught me that whatever I had, it was my obligation to give as much of it as I could to try and help people less fortunate than me. And my mother died 18 years ago now, but I wear a necklace every day, and it has a replica of the widow's mite coin.
Oh, wow.
And I wear it every day. And when I see it in the mirror every morning, it reminds me to ask myself, are you truly giving all that you have for the least of your brothers and sisters?
Hmm.
And that's the challenge my mother left me with. You know, my mother wasn't given a lot of coins in life. She grew up without running water, without electricity. She only got to go to school until she was 12 years old, but she never gave up and she always tried to help others. I was given unbelievable opportunities in my life. The opportunity to go to Harvard, the opportunity to work for President Obama. And with great power comes great responsibility.
Hmm.
And I try to use the opportunities I've been given to benefit people who are not as lucky as I am.
Yes, yes. And I noticed that every role that you've had, like I mentioned, you're back at the academy when you were teaching, and it came to your attention how gay students were feeling in your own academy. And being a gay man yourself, you didn't shy away from the idea of working with someone else to start the first gay straight alliance, saying we have to do something with this. So when you see something, you do something with what's there. And it became an organization now that is the organization in the country for teaching respect for all in schools and having GSAs have an umbrella to be under. And all those things happened as a result of you just following your mission. It wasn't that you did it all yourself, but you stayed clear on the course.
Exactly. And that's why when I mentor young people, I tell them don't get worried about what kind of job you're going to get. Be worried about, do I know why I am here on this planet?
Yes.
Because if you're clear on your mission, you're clear on your purpose, you're clear on your calling, the right opportunities will come your way. That is the lesson of my life. I've never had a career plan. And I've had one of the most fabulous careers in America, if you ask
Yeah,
me.
yeah, absolutely.
Um, and it's because I always knew what my purpose was.
Yeah, and that idea of giving all that you have, I can be a witness to that you live that, and you also include other people. So in addition to the mentoring of young people and trying to help them see what you see, so that possibly they can even have a quantum leap and go for that mission in their life, you bring people along with you and you choose partners and you bring people into the circle and you help anyone that's in your life. I think about how we came together and you had made a decision based on what you heard about me and the work that I did and my work on the school board and different things that I should be on your board of the Glisson, organization. And I remember you flew out to California because there was going to be a meeting there, but you sat with me, for an hour, and there was no was not an option. You know, no to Kevin Jennings was not an option. I was so sure I wasn't going to join a board. I didn't have time. I wasn't going to do it. I was working full time. I have two kids. I've got, at that point, three children. And yet it was one of the best things that I've ever done is to be part of that board and part of that organization that you founded, so many years ago. So I noticed that you also bring people in, you know, to be part of whatever it is that you're doing.
Well, first of all, it's lovely of you to say. I'm going to get choked up. But there was an early civil rights organization called the um, United Negro Women in the late 1800s, and they had a motto, and that motto was "Lifting as we climb."
Hmm.
And the whole idea was that as they were climbing, they would lift other people with them. And someone shared that motto with me about 15 years ago, and I thought that is exactly what you should do. That as you are trying to climb, you should bring other people with you. And that's what I've sought to do. There's an unfortunate thing that happens sometimes among oppressed people, which a friend of mine shared with me many years ago, that sometimes among oppressed people, it becomes crabs in a barrel. As soon as one tries to climb up, the other ones pull it right back down.
Hmm.
And I'm determined that I want to lift people with me if I'm able to climb, and that I want to help people climb. The thing that makes me happiest in the world right now is to help young people succeed. And I guess in a way, that's what's made me happiest my whole life. After all, I became a high school teacher when I was 22 years old. Um, but I really feel like at this point in my life, I'm 57. I really want to help the next generation in every way that I can. Um, it's the most important calling I think I have at this point in my life, which is to help the next generation.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that, again, you're demonstrating and showing is that you don't have to have, permission. You don't need to have your own biological children, but you have decided to mentor and bring up and help, so many, young people, as you mentioned. Even I never know what I will receive from you in terms of what you're working on or those kind of things, but sometimes it's a candidate who happens to be a Native American woman who's running for something somewhere that's not even anywhere near where you live or anything. It's just more that you are lifting her up as I see this on my screen. This needs some lifting up. I want to illuminate this. I want to raise it up into people's consciousness, and you send it out in the universe and you ask. And as I said, like, for Kevin Jennings, no is just not usually an option, and a lot of people say yes to you. So the beauty for us is that you're asking the great questions. Will you help this? Will you help support that? Will you help us get this done? And I know that among the careers and the roles that you've had, one of them was, be the change. And it was just fascinating to me that even it was a short stint, it was perfect because you have been the change that you want to see in the world. You want to see people lifting each other up. You want to see people finding their mission. And if that's the best message I think you could possibly give to people on a spiritual path, it's not even about which religion or whether you quote the Bible or the Quran or whether it's the Gita. It's about what you do with it, right? So what you've done with it is to say, I am behaving from that which I think is mine to do. And mine to do is to lift people up as I climb. I think that's really a beautiful thing. And to give what I have, right? And to appreciate that what I've been given. It's an amazing life that you're living, and I'm so glad that I get to be part of it and get to share you with others.
Well, I have to tell you that you are the one who really has taught me the importance of gratitude. As an activist, I often tend to look at what the world is lacking and think we need to change this, and this is wrong, and this needs to be fixed, and we don't have this yet, and this is unjust. And you really helped me understand to be grateful for things. And another person who really taught me a lot about that from a distance, because I only met him a couple of times, was the now late Congressman John Lewis. And he tweeted something once, and I found a company where you can get tweets framed, and I got it framed and I put it on my desk at work. And I just want to repeat the tweet because it was so moving to me. The tweet said, "Do not get lost in a sea of despair. Be hopeful, be optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, or a year. It is the struggle of a lifetime. We will make a way out of no way."
Yes, beautiful. And you do a great job of demonstrating and leading the way of making a way out of no way. So thank you so much, Kevin Jennings.
Thank you, Christie. It's been an honor to know you and work with you and learn from you. And I'm very grateful that you thought enough of me to ask me to be on your program.
You're so welcome.